Okay, hello and welcome to the November wrap up. November wrap up. I don't have all that much to. Well, I have a lot to talk about, but I don't have much to show you this time. So this is gonna be more of a. Okay, I thought the camera was like slowly tilting back, but I don't think that's the case. This is gonna be more of a discussion without the actual physical documents to support it, because the only ones physically that I have to show you are these, and we'll get more into detail with them. But we're gonna roll through the stuff that I've read in order. We're just gonna do it in order, and the first one I know is Nevernight. So holding Nevernight. Um, excuse me, I just had my dinner, so apologies for that. But I know Nevernight. I know Nevernight. I read Nevernight. And it was pretty good. I think every single book that I'm going to talk about in this month has the same rating, so that's a thing. But okay, where's it? Date red. Talk about date red. Okay. Yes, we got Nevernight first. This one is a lot less structured and stuff than my other ones. I'm just gonna kind of be chatting about them, maybe reading my review, see what I said, see what I think now that some time has passed. Not really from the Lost Metal, but from every other book, some time has passed. So we'll see what I think. And for Nevernight, I really enjoyed it. I was kind of feeling after I was done, I was like, this could, like, there is arguments to be made that this could be a 5-star. Like, I didn't end up giving it a 5-star. I gave it a 4-star. But it was a strong 4-star, so I was really enjoying, probably like 4.5. But I really enjoyed Nevernight. I thought it was a really fun, good book. Now, before we get into it, yes, Jay Kristoff has some weird lines. There is he was beautiful. His beauty was like a fresh suicide. Looks, it was like oddly attractive, or you can't take your eyes away from it for the first couple hours, but then it becomes like gross if after a while. I don't know. It was a really weird thing, but everyone attacks it for it. I think it was fun. I mean, I think he was just trying to do something different. I think the character that he is describing is so death focused. Like, that character is, because they're at an assassin school. Like, that character is so surrounded by death, imagery of death. Like, I think it kind of works, but I think for some people that kind of edgy descriptions, like really melodramatic, edgy, over the top, like doing too much, like too descriptive, overemphasizing shit, being really edgy. Like, edgy is kind of the word. Edgy is the flavor. Like, that doesn't sit right for a lot of people, but for me, I thought it actually worked really well. I mean, this novel should be edgy in my opinion, right? It's like a young girl who wants to be an assassin, like at an assassin school. Like, that's gonna be edgy. So for me, it hit that kind of nail on the head, so to speak, in terms of its like tone, with the edginess and whatnot. Oh yeah, I remember this had like a slow, like the first half of this book was quite quite tough for me to get into because there was so much content. There was just so much stuff being thrown at me from the first half of this book. It's quite clear that Jay Kristoff had a really strong idea of what he wanted this world to be and what he wanted all the characters to be. Like, this feels like a laser focused, not a laser focused book. Let me wind that back. This feels like a book where he knew exactly what he wanted from everybody, from the story, from the people, from whatever. So I feel like a lot of the time you're just kind of getting these info dumps or this exposition just really mixed in with everything. You're just constantly getting new information, just dumping. Like you just are permanently learning shit. I felt like I was at school for the first half of this book. Like I have it written down here. Mia's backstory, every single one of the students, every single one of the teachers, the magic systems, the different cities, the different countries that the cities are in, the political aspects of the book, the religions, the class system that is kind of taking place here. Like every single one of these things, all the supporting cast, we have to learn all about like Trick and the different supporting cast. There is so much shit that you learn in this book that can really bog you down. It can really weigh you down. But I think once you get into the second half, it really, really, really starts to pick up. The plot starts really coming together, getting quite exciting. They're near the end of the assassin school, and only a certain amount of the students can pass, so it gets quite exciting once you get to the end. And I had one other complaint about this book, and that was that characters have this kind of weird reaction, I think, to some of the things that take place in this book. And a lot of these characters are morally grey. Like almost all of the characters in this book are morally grey to some degree. So that's kind of the idea that we play with. And when we meet Mia at the very, very beginning of the book, the narrator, because there's like a narrator in this book that isn't Mia, kind of is like, she isn't your typical protagonist. She isn't the lovely, gracious girl that you've heard from the stories, assuming that we live in this world or whatever. Like she's like basically saying she's a morally grey protagonist, so don't expect her to do like the correct thing every time or the morally just thing every time. But I feel like a lot of the times characters in this book will make a decision that isn't really morally like good. It's like a potentially like not morally good decision. They're just doing it out of personal interest or for revenge or to get money or fame or whatever it is, political power. Like people are doing pretty bad shit in this novel like all the time, but it's an assassin school. Like that's what we're here for. Like that's what this is. But some of the assassin students and stuff have this really weird stance on like morality. Like say a student will like steal something from someone else, or will like, I don't know, cut someone else. They have this weird thing where it's like, that's so fucked up to do. But I'm like, y'all are here to like kill people, and y'all have killed to like be here. Like y'all are killers. It's like, why do you have this really weird, I don't know, I feel like some characters just don't like, I think Jay Kristoff was like, in order to make some of these characters likable, we have to have them react to like a killing or whatever and be like, oh, that's not okay to do. But it doesn't really land, because I'm like, these are assassins. Like these are the assassin people. So I think he kind of gets a little mixed up, in my opinion, from my perspective, reading it, whatever. That I think he wanted some of the characters to be morally grey, but then he was like, I want the reader to actually like these characters, so I don't want to make them too morally grey. So kind of, I feel like he was like kind of pulling his punches in terms of how morally questionable he wanted to make the ensemble here, because I think they all should have been pretty fucking morally grey. I mean, they're here to be assassins. Like that. But that just is the T. And I mean, I guess you can become an assassin for like good reasons, but I don't feel like any of them really had particularly good reasons for being there. And I think if he wanted to have a morally good character join the class or whatever, that should have been really explored and outlined, instead of it just being like some of the characters have strange reactions to more. I'm just ranting about this fucking book at this point, but I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed my time. I think now that the world is fully set up and all the factions and all the moving parts are out on the table now, that the sequel is going to be better, hopefully, now that we've got everything set up, because this book is kind of just set up in a way. You do get a conclusion, and it's, in my opinion, quite satisfying. But I feel like this book is just like it's just setting you up for what is gonna happen in the next two books. So this book is kind of just like introduction. It's not really like, the Final Empire compared to this. Like the Final Empire does achieves like a full thing, whereas this book kind of doesn't achieve the full thing. I think it's gonna have to take all three books to achieve that kind of conclusion. But I'm not sure what happens in book 2, so that could be the case. But I thought it was a really good book. I thought it was a strong 4. I really loved it. I thought it was really great. My critiques aren't that deep. I was just talking about the morality of some of the characters. I think sometimes when I think a book is really close to 5-star, that I really hone in on some of the critiques. Because comparing this to The Alloy of Law, which is the first Miss One Era 2 book, I gave that book a much harsher rating. I gave it a 3.5, or I gave this like 4.5. But The Alloy of Law, I don't really have too many major critiques to really talk about. It was just like, oh, it didn't really grab me, whereas this really grabbed me. But so there's a couple things that I think didn't really land 100%. Oh, shut the fuck up about that book. Okay, next one. This one actually isn't a 4-star. This is a 3.75. Oh, I don't know why I did that, but felt the need to. This one I actually have. This is one of 2 books that I actually have in my possession at the time of recording. So I did read that one physically, but I palmed it to someone I hate vehemently. Someone I want to kill. I grabbed this one randomly at a bookstore, and I was like, this looks cool. It looks fun. It looks like Sarah J. Maas. It looks like the Thorn of and Roses, or whatever the fuck. But I really like the graphic design. I think it's my favorite cover for a book that I've read this year. I think it's really cool. I think it's really cute. I like the pink. I like the blue octopus, and I like the yellow. I think it's fun. I think it's cool. I think it's great. And it's not all that special, but I just think it's cool. I like it. I like it. Was the book good? Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had a really great time with this book. I think maybe 3.75 is a little harsh, but look, I'll trust who I was in the past. I think probably just leave it at a 4. I don't see the reason to take the 0.25 up, but I think it's because I read the author has like a postscript thing. I don't know. He talks about acknowledgements at the end of the book, and he talks about his intentions. Like, what I wanted this book to be about communication, and I was kind of just sitting there, and I was like, this book isn't all really about communication, because it is about a scientist, a Vietnamese scientist who goes to an archipelago to study a highly intelligent, dangerous octopus species. But let's be real. The octopus is kind of irrelevant. Now, don't attack me. There's a lot of the octopus in the book, but for me personally, I didn't feel like the plot with the octopus was. I don't think it really did much. I don't think it was really concluded all that well. I think the stuff with the octopus was pretty lackluster. Because what he wanted to do was form a story about communication. What's it going to be like to communicate with a species like this octopus? What is it like communicating with an octopus? Because like he don't speak English. He don't know. He has his own way of communicating now. So it's like it's very similar. But just watch the film Arrival, and you'll have a 10 times better experience. Like that whole idea of like bringing on a linguist to talk to an alien. I mean, the octopus is an alien, but alien species. I mean, we have a biologist here. It's not even a linguist. So we have these discussions that are linguistic discussions to a degree. I mean, her marine biologist side helps understand the octopus, but the main point is them trying to communicate with it. Is that there isn't a linguist in the cast of characters that are on this archipelago, so it's kind of nothing really gets done. Like they don't. I'm not going to spoil like the ending of the book, but it's like, you know, these conclusions that they were able to arrive at in Arrival weren't able to happen really in this book in the same way, in a similar way, because it was just a marine biologist and other people. Like it wasn't the same. So, but the thing that I really, really loved about this book was everything else. Basically, everything besides like that main plot point with the octopus, I really loved, and even the octopus, I didn't hate. I thought octopus was actually kind of like a charming character. I thought the octopus was actually like a charming character, and I thought like all the interactions with the octopus were pretty interesting. But I think the core plot line of the story wanted to be about the octopus so badly, but I feel like the author was getting distracted because he was talking about all this other shit. There's so much other shit going on in this novel. Like, just talking about the octopus is nowhere near a description of the novel. But I'm just going to talk about it because I don't care. But there is at least 2 other plot lines that are like almost have the same amount of page time. I mean, together they have more page time than the octopus, I'm pretty sure. And they were way more interesting. Like, way more interesting. So I think it's kind of strange that we spent so much time on the octopus, and I even think the author himself was a bit bored of the damn octopus and just want to talk about the side plots they had going on, and they were super interesting. We have a fisherman who's on like an AI powered warship that just wants money, so it just sails to wherever it thinks the money is, and it just automatically does all this shit. That was super cool and interesting. And then we have this hacker man that's like hacking and shit, but it's kind of like these government forces and like these covert forces are like talking to him, and he's considering, if I hack this thing, am I just gonna get like shot in the back of the head, or is like a drone just gonna like take me the fuck out? And that's kind of like playing with this really dangerous, like, if he finishes the hack, is he gonna get fucking got or whatever? Like, he's constantly in this fear. And those 2 stories were so good. They were really, really good. And there were some elements about the main plot that I thought were good, but I don't know. I just feel like this book got confused. I would have loved this book to just be about those 2 plot lines and kind of bringing them together and just make that dude hack the AI warship and just cut the fucking octopus out of this bitch. I mean, I bought this because of the octopus, because of the Vietnamese marine biologist going to see the octopus. I was like, that sounds like a cool fucking plotline, but ends up I cared about everything else instead. 4 out of 5, 3.75. Apparently, I'm going to the Goodreads, but yeah, and there's some really cool stuff with POV that happens in this book. So it kind of like, you think you're in the POV of someone and maybe you're not, and all this kind of cool shit, and there's like espionage, and it's fun. It's a good ass book. Just the main plot, I guess, it wasn't really like as interesting. Yeah, I got my Shadows of Self. We got Shadows of Self next, which is Mistborn number 5, or book 2 of Era 2. This one's really good. This is a really good book. I think on reflection, I said I gave it a light 4 stars. I think on reflection, so the thing about Era 2 that I don't love as much is the lack of character development. There isn't as much page time in these books to develop the characters, and like 90% of the page time in Era 2 is just devoted to like action scenes. So you don't really get this good characterization of Wax, Wayne, Steris, and Marasi, until like book 7, and then book 4. And then by then you've kind of got real fleshed characters, and it's really interesting to read them. But on kind of thinking back, I think I enjoyed the series more and more as it kept going because those characters were slowly being built up. Does it mean that Shadows of Self is the worst, or the second worst? I guess I don't like the first one very much. The second worst, I actually think plot wise and like whatever wise, like everything else, like this is probably my favorite. Now that I'm seeing them all, I'm seeing all 4 of them, I'm probably saying this is my favorite because I think the plot here is really good. I think the characters, while they're a little bit thin in this book, with the knowledge that I now have of where that characters are going, I feel like I can retroactively enjoy this book a lot more because I know that these characters, that was kind of my major complaint, um, that it's been like slowly built upon and it's been resolved. So I can use that character work that has been slowly building up, and then I can relook at this and be like, this was a good book. This was a really good book. But I think at the time of reading, I didn't really have that breadth of knowledge on the characters and that real attachment to the characters. So I was kind of like, oh, I didn't think I like this one as much. But yeah, definitely, I think this one is pretty good. Yeah, I think this one's my favorite of Vera too. I'm just gonna say it. I think it's really good. Like I said, I think it's giving a little bit more on the plot side of things. I think the plot here is real tight. It's real interesting. It's fun. And yeah, I guess I'm just gonna talk about all of Era 2 for now. I'll just go into all of it because why not? Mistborn 6, Bands of Morning. It's probably, so Shadows of Self is my favorite, then The Lost Metal, then Bands of Morning, and then Alloy of Law. Bands of Morning is good. I think the top three are very, very close to one another. I'm not going to say that, like, you know, there's heaps of room between Shadows of Self and whatever, because they're all 4 stars, so there's not really that much of a difference. But I would say, like, on my enjoyment, like, Shadows of Self is probably my favorite in retrospect. The Lost Metal is probably my second favorite, even though I think it is kind of the weirdest plot wise. I don't think it really delivers on that front. And then Bands of Morning, for a little bit of the same reasons. I think I liked the Cosmere stuff in the Lost Metal. It was just satisfying, and I think the conclusion was pretty satisfying as well. And it set up a lot of things, so I guess it's not as big of a conclusion as Era 1, which is something that is kind of annoying. But yeah, I mean, Era 2 is like pretty much all 4 stars. I mean, I wish they had way more character development. That's my big complaint about Era 2. But by the time you get to book 4, book 7, well, I'll call it book 4 of Mistborn Era 2, you've had enough time to develop the characters, so they're pretty good by that point. And yeah, not much more to say about it. Fuck a load of action, so if that's your thing, you're really gonna like this. But I don't really like reading about action all that much. But I still think they're good books. I still think they're great books. So that's why the 4 out of 5. I think if I enjoyed action, you know, like the best book in this series could maybe hit a 5 out of 5. But I just don't really care about the action and the silly, more fun, lighthearted atmosphere. Even though I really want to say I don't think Era 2 is as lighthearted as everyone says. Everyone's like, oh, it's just like a fun, like, romp. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, the first book is, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a lot of conversation around grief and okay, a lot of talk about, like, grief, forgiveness, self-sabotage, depression, anxiety. There's, like, really heavy topics, and yeah, there's action, but I don't think fun and having a lot of action are the same thing. And I think people describe Era 2 as, oh, it's just, like, really fun. But I'm like, I don't know if I would really agree. I think Wayne is, like, the fun character, is comedy relief or whatever, but I think Wayne is such a layered and nuanced character that it's not always that fun to be with everybody here, because everyone's kind of going through some shit. I mean, it's definitely not as a kind of complex as Stormlight Archives, and it definitely doesn't reach into the same lows as, like, some of those series get into, like the really depths of fucking depression or, like, things like that. But it kind of goes there, and I don't think describing this book as fun, or the series as fun, is really how I would describe it. I think it's more fun, but it's, like, action focused, and I think there's a lot more discussion, or like really serious discussion about like the really serious implications of these characters, the fucking trials and tribulations they go through, like the shit they have to go through. Like, it's not fun often. It really isn't very fun very often. And maybe that's just the way that I'm reading the series. I mean, I think that also depends, but I don't think it's as fun as people are saying. That's kind of where I'm going. I don't think it's fun as people are saying. All 4 stars. Shadows itself kind of the best. Bands of Morning just the worst. Oof, I'm blown out. I don't know. Then I have this joint, that Frederick Buckman, that dementia joint. Little novella. You can read it in one sitting. It's about a boy and his grandpa, and he's kind of talking to his grandpa about his life, and he's discovering, you know, these things about his grandpa and his dad, and they're just kind of slowly going through the motions of dementia and whatever. And it's really sad. I shed a tear. I also shed a couple tears in The Lost Metal, if you had to know. Because yeah, this book's good. I think, you know, read it if you want, but don't spend $20 on the physical edition. Just read the shitty novella online. It's really good. It's really good. I mean, I gave this as a gift, so that's why I have it physically, but I wouldn't recommend buying it physically because it's expensive for kind of what it is. But the story's pretty fun. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I kind of expected a little bit more out of it, and that's not to say that it was bad or anything, but I did just expect a little bit more from. I expected something different. I kind of didn't get what I expected, but I mean, it still covered all the same topics. I'm looking at the average Goodreads rating for Bands of Mourning, and it's a lot higher than Shadows of Self, which kind of confuses me because but it also doesn't, because Shadows of Bands of Mourning does so much character work for people like Asteris and Wayne. So I understand that book would be more appealing, and it definitely was to me when I wrote that. I was like, oh, this is maybe my favorite. Yeah, I literally wrote maybe my favorite of Era 2 so far, question mark. But I think it's because I had that character work. So I don't know. Does it make it a better book than the previous one because it just continued the character work that's been happening? I don't know. I don't know. They're all the same. Fuck it. They're all the same. And then Alloy of Law is worse. And then last but not least, it's the same as all the rest of them. It's a 4-star. Is The Emperor's Soul. It's the first Elantris based thing that I've read, and it was fun. It was good. I really don't have much to say about it. I didn't love so we get to see the magic, and there's a lot of nuance and different technicalities to the magic system that's mainly on display here. But basically she can apply soul stamps to things and rewrite their history and whatnot, which I thought was really cool. But there was the concept that you can soul stamp yourself and rewrite your own history, and I don't know why, but I really didn't like that. It just wasn't interesting to read. I just felt like it was weird. I didn't really enjoy it all that much. So that is kind of where I'm sitting with that. Like, I didn't love the self soul stamping all that much. I don't know who gives a fuck. But yeah, I read that before The Lost Metal because I knew that a character from the Emperor's Soul was gonna be in The Lost Metal. So let me hit that joint one time. That's everything. That's all the things that I read. Don't have many of them physically, and I am reading A Little Life. I am 85 pages in. So I'm through the first part. There is 7 parts. If you want to read the contents, yep, 7 parts of the book. The first one, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm hoping to connect a bit more to Malcolm and JB than I already am. I'm quite biased to Willem and Jude. I really love those characters. I really love spending time with them. And I know it's gonna be sad, but that's what I signed up for. So I don't mind. I don't mind. That's gonna be sad. Sometimes you gotta read something sad. I mean, I cried at the Lost Metal, so maybe I already have read something sad. I'm just doing it to myself again. I don't know, but yeah. Hopefully, A Little Life, if it continues being this good and it has a big crescendo towards the end, and that makes me, all the big, it's big. So if all this character work and progression builds up to something huge, and I feel that real sense of payoff, that real something that like it continues this quality and it delivers towards the end of the book. We could be looking at 5-star. We could be looking at something real good. I'm really enjoying it so far, and I like it. I like the discussions around everything. I think if you were a New Yorker, you would get even more out of this book. Set in New York. She lived in New York. Like, it's just very New York, but neither here nor there. That one, neither here nor there. So, yeah. Almost fully caught up in the Cosmere. I still got to read Elantris, but I know a lot of the stuff that happens in Elantris, so I'm not like, yeah. But I'll get to it at some point, maybe in a month or two. I'll pick up Elantris and get through it, and then be like, I read all the Cosmere. Besides White Sand, but I don't think I'm gonna read White Sand. Haven't heard good things. I'm a little bit sick of I'm not sick of the Cosmere, but I'm just kind of like, I just want to be caught up, and then I just want to call it. I was like, well, that's that. I'm just gonna read everything else that comes out, because we're getting the secret novels which take place in the Cosmere, and whether or not they're going to be like essential reading or not, I don't think so, but because they were just written for fun and they were never written to be publicized. And but then he was like, wait a minute, these are actually pretty good. I'm gonna release some of the Kickstarter. And so I don't think they're going to be required reading for the Cosmere, but if there's 3 different stories in the Cosmere set on 3 different planets, I don't think any of them are existing planets. I might be wrong, or systems, or I don't know. I might be wrong. But seems like it's probably going to have to be essential eventually. And knowing Sanderson, he'll reference these characters that he set up in future books, so it'll be like, well, you probably got to read them. So I'll read them when they come out. But yeah, no rush on the Cosmere, just chilling. Yeah. It was a fine rating month. All 4 stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 4-star books. 2 novellas. 5 4-star books and 2 4-star novellas. Look, I want to keep you. Oh, look at that. I got the Goodreads off and now I'm not overexposed. Gotta upload this bitch too. Okay. Bye.